lineup of your favorite show. At producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the Cow Killer, Casey McCollister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Well, welcome into a Friday edition. Some would say the best edition of Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Trace Fowler, joined as always by the pristine program directors. I'm trying to think of the fanciest title I could possibly give as I look to my right, but every time I look to my right, and it's not Casey, but every time I look to my right, not Casey, it's hard for me to think of an esteemed, privileged title. Good to see you, gentlemen. We did start late.
Wow.
But you know whose fault it was?
It wasn't my fault this time.
It wasn't Casey's fault this time.
Whose was it?
It was on the other side of the room. Nick Kirby. Turns out Nick was late, so we had to sit around and wait for him.
That's right.
And
we planned the whole show with him, and it's like, oh my goodness.
That's right.
What's going to happen now?
Hours of planning just thrown out the window.
Out the window. That's right.
There's something that's kind of funny about that, the fact that we even discussed planning on this show. One would like to think this show would become significantly better if there was a little more planning. But some might say that it might not be as good, because sometimes you walk in this office and you think you're talking about one thing, and then an hour later you're talking about something completely different. On the way into work today, Lindsay, I'm going to include you into the show as fast as I can this time. Okay. I do want to say there was somebody that tweeted out something preposterous and immediately made me think of you because of the way that Elliot always treats you, which is not very nice if we're being honest.
I mean,
but it did say
it's a Friday morning and we're starting off with slander.
It did say. Name one reason why Caitlin Clark can't play in the NBA. Could you think of one, Lindsay?
Not off the top of my head right now.
I could think of a million, but that's that. Shout out to Caitlin Clark.
I think she could play in the NBA.
I don't know why we always do this. We do it every time. It's like we have a great thing in women's sports, and we just want to always just make it something that it's not. But that's here nor there. The Reds won yesterday. A big win, some might say. Not as big, though. I don't know if you've seen the scoreboard. I know you're going to do headlines. I don't know if you got it in there. But I was told that the Rockies are off to a great start.
Yes, I have it in here.
Go ahead. Headlines.
All
Elliot
right.
Rearing.
Well, I'll start with that one then. The Diamondbacks, they scored 14 runs in the third inning on their way to an easy blowout of the sad Colorado Rockies, 16-1. We talked about it yesterday. The Colorado Rockies are the world's biggest disgrace. I'll read the Reds, even though everybody knows what happened to the Reds. I'm going to read it anyway because I wrote it out. 8-2, obviously, Nationals. Montas, I believe is how I'm going to pronounce that name.
You're going to do Montas.
I think, isn't that it? We just don't know.
Nobody knows.
We just don't know. I was listening to Tommy Thrall yesterday, and he just said Montas, I'm pretty sure. So who knows? Who knows what it is? 6 innings, 4 hits, no walks, striking out 4. He only threw 81 pitches. Fraley, Steer, and Martini all had multi-hit games, with Martini obviously delivering the 2 big ones. What a guy. And also, shout out to Nick Kirby. Right before I left the office, I was like, hey, you got any first home run bets? He's like, yeah, let's go Nick Martini. It's like, okay. And then he hit 2 of them. We also have a correct prediction by Bryce Spalding. I don't know if anybody saw that, but his tweet kind of went a little viral
Unbelievable.
Yesterday. He called every single aspect of that game to a T. Every single aspect, in case he's got it right here.
Just read it out for those that might be on the radio. Let's practice for that.
Sure, we'll practice. We'll practice for that. So he woke up, and then he said he's going to piss excellence. That's a quote, and that's not dirty. That's a quote from Talladega Nights. He said, "Get a haircut." He got it. Get on my nicest Reds T-shirt. Put it on. He got and picked up some wings. Picked them up. He checked the lineup. Confirmed Martini is in it. He goes to the DraftKings app. No free ads. He pets Nick Martini home run plus 700. Turn on Bally Sports Ohio. Martini home run in first at bat. Hits it. Reds win 8-2 exactly and perish. Perhaps the most preposterous tweet of all time. Congratulations to Bryce for calling that. That's honestly incredible. I don't even know how you do that. I assume it was somewhat rooted in humor, but it wasn't humor. It was the real deal. Suter closed the game off. He went 2 innings, striking out 4. Shout out to him. And then we'll go around the league here. Red Sox beat Luis Castillo and the Mariners 6-4. Tyler O'Neill hit his 5th straight opening day home run. I don't know if you saw this. 5th straight opening day home run. I'm pretty sure that is the record because that's unheard of. I don't even know how it's possible. Guardians, they beat the A's. Casey, I sent you a picture of the Athletics Stadium yesterday, if that's okay. I'm going to give you some time. It was about in front of 10 people, I think, on opening day in Oakland.
They're not doing the reverse boycott like they did last year.
No, I
remember that?
I think they're just not showing up anymore. 8-0, the Guardians beat the A's, and there's legitimately not a soul in the audience. Not a soul in the crowd. Nobody is there.
This does make for great radio, Elliot, but I will say, if you're listening to the radio, he's not exaggerating when he said there was 10 people there. There is legitimately 10 people there.
That was a zoomed out picture. I had to zoom in and find where some of the people were. They're a little bit in the left field bleachers and a little bit on the third base line. Other than that, there is absolutely nobody there on a cloudy, rainy day in Oakland. That is a disaster.
And I was going to say,
that is a disaster.
I was thinking for a second when I was looking up at that photo that, you know what, maybe someone took a picture to try to be funny like 30 minutes before first pitch or something along those lines where you can, you know how that can be sometimes. Yeah. You can kind of sneak a picture in when it's not truly representative of what actually exists. The starting lineups, when they call them out on the field and they line up on the baselines, that's what that picture was. So that's probably, 10 minutes before first pitch?
Maybe 10 minutes.
So, yeah, not a good
look. How do you fix that situation? Is there a way to fix it?
You don't.
I don't think there is. I think you just lose. I think that's a franchise that's just lost. And you'll never get it back. It's like the Arizona Coyotes in the NHL. They played Arizona State. Nobody cares. Nobody watches. The city denies every attempt to build a new stadium for them. So that's it. That's sad. Sad to see for the Oakland Athletics. This is a fun one. The Cubs. What does that say? Oh, they lost. They lost to the Rangers 4-3 after MLB umpiring tried to rig the game. There was a foul ball. The umpire said it was no foul ball. It was ruled, I think, a pass ball. And then the Cubs scored a BS run. But the Rangers came back, fought back, and won it in extra innings.
Why don't they change that?
What?
Why don't they change that? That happened last year. It was during the pennant race, if we could call it that. And I don't remember exactly the team it was. Kirby might remember off the top of his head. But there was a foul ball in that exact same situation to where the umpire didn't see that it got foul tipped. It got rewarded as a pass ball. Run scores. I believe it was a Braves game, if I remember right. It would be crazy to think that it happened to the Cubs twice, which might be the case, but I can't guarantee that.
I think it was the Cubs. They played the Braves a lot at the end of the year.
Yeah, and it might have been the Cubs again. But the idea that happened last year during a meaningful game, and again, all 162 at this point, as crazy as that is to say, should you overreact every single game and act like it's the best thing or the worst thing after every single game in regards to win or loss? Probably shouldn't. But you get down towards the end of the year, and guess what? You're only separated by a game or 2 games, so they all matter.
Every single one.
Why wouldn't you just make that a reviewable play? It's a dead ball.
It is.
Like, nothing changes. Elliot, is there anything in your, big brain, of course. Is there anything in your big brain that would tell you this is why you shouldn't do that?
Yeah, I don't know. That seems like it needs to be fixed pretty quickly, I'd say. Moving on, though, Tigers, they blanked the White Sox 1-0. White Sox are sad. Twins, they take care of the Royals 4-1. Yankees, they came back to beat the Astros 5-4. Juan Soto had a good game in his debut. Dodgers, they dismantled the St. Louis Fraudnals 7-1. Shohei, I did believe, have a hit. Mookie and Freddie hit home runs. Trace, I know, mentioned yesterday on his little betting app thing that all the Dodgers players had the best value to hit a home run yesterday. 2 of them did. I imagine those 2 were at the top of that list. Padres, they beat the Giants 6-4. Blue Jays beat the Rays 8-2. Joey Votto was in attendance for that Blue Jays game. He was sitting in the audience with the regular folk. Did
you just call it the audience?
The crowd. You know what I'm saying. I get confused. I do both.
I don't know.
I did theater, so I sometimes call it the audience.
You did theater?
I did.
Really?
Yeah. Was that a shock to you?
What did you do in theater?
I acted in the theater. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you do? All right. Pirates, they beat the Marlins 6-5. The 6-seeded, and okay, so that's it for baseball. I should have put a stop in there in my little words.
Yeah.
The 6-seeded Clemson, they upset Arizona yesterday, 77-72. Caleb Love contributed 5 for 18 shooting and 0 for 9 from 3 for the Wildcats.
Did you see R.J. Davis too?
Yeah, I did.
He also went 0 for 9.
Yeah, that's tough. At some point, I know the game. There was a graphic that just came out on Twitter how the NBA game has changed over the years, and it shows the most popular shots, and it was a shot chart from 2004 and 2024. And it basically, it was cool to see because in the 2004, there was a ton of mid-range jumpers at the top of the key. Now, it is literally all three-pointers or inside the paint. And I think college is obviously going to that too. Just so many teams only shooting threes, not even attempting to go down low. UC did that for a large majority of this season. So that's kind of wild. We have Alabama. Alabama's Grant Nelson, he scored 12 of the last 14 in the Tide's 2-point victory over North Carolina. It's their first Elite Eight since 2004. Shout out to them. Shout out to Jacob Tissett. We have UConn, who might just be the greatest team of all time. They throttled San Diego State 82-52 after it was a 4-point game with 3 minutes to go in the first half. They won by 30. 30. Terrence Shannon Jr. dropped 29 points in their 3-point win over Iowa State. Some of us at Iowa State. That's sad. It is their first Elite Eight in the last 20 years. And finally, around sports, Scottie Scheffler now has the most consecutive rounds under par on the PGA Tour after yesterday's 65 at the Houston Open. What a wild day in sports. That was a very good day in sports. You have Reds opening day, and then you have March Madness immediately after. I'm gonna wait for Trace's opinion on this because we were talking about it before the show. But I was texting a group chat last night, and I said, and this is about, I don't know, midnight. I probably texted. I texted him, what the hell are we doing starting these games so late? The game was in Boston. It ended at 12:40 a.m. Eastern time. Meanwhile, the early game, it had nobody there because it was on the West Coast at 7, which is 4 o'clock there. I don't know who's in charge with the times and everything here. And maybe this is just how they've always done it, so they're just going to continue to do it. But there has to be a better way than to start games. The unofficial start time being 10:10, the last game on this slate. Because that's what it is tonight, too. There's a 9:40 tip and a 10:10 tip tonight. And you just don't need it. It doesn't need to be that way. Trace threw out the idea, you can watch multiple games at once. That's part of what makes March Madness great. You can have 2 7 o'clock games, 2 9 o'clock games. Yeah. You can. And I think that's eventually what they're going to do or have to do because it's preposterous that I was staying up until 1 a.m. watching that basketball. It was a great game. They were all great games. All the people who yelled at me for calling the tournament a C+, you were right. Every single one of those games outside of UConn, they don't count. The rest of them were great. They were close. All the underdogs covered the spread, and they won outright. So we're great, except for UConn. Again, UConn just beats everybody. I actually have real quick, before I move on. Casey, I sent you a couple UConn graphics. You don't have to show them. I'm just talking to myself so I can give myself some time. You got them up?
Yeah.
So here's one. This is the margin of victory from UConn the past 8 tournament games. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely. And I believe this did not include yesterday's win, 30-point victory over San Diego State. 24-15, 23-28, 13-17, 39-17. They play these games and they're not close. None of them. We go to the next one here. This is UConn trailing the past 7 tournament games. 47 seconds in the Elite Eight against Gonzaga last year. You had 4 minutes in the title game against San Diego State, and you had 28 against San Diego State yesterday. This might be the most dominant college basketball team we've seen in 20 years.
Would you say San Diego State has their number after looking at that graphic? I mean,
sure,
it certainly looks like San Diego State has their number. If
basketball was about having a lead for 2 minutes, sure, they absolutely do. You can't argue against it. But that is absolutely and I want to give a quick shout out to the Big East. The Big East might have got wronged in this tournament because they're a 3-bid team. 3-bid league, excuse me. UConn, Marquette, and Creighton are damn good teams. And I think, honest to God, the only team that's going to beat UConn or has a chance, It's going to be one of those two teams, just because they at least know what sport they're playing. San Diego State in the second half didn't know what sport they were playing yesterday. Creighton beat UConn earlier this year. I think Creighton's a team that might be able to do it. So shout out to the Big East. All three teams are very good.
Big 12?
Nah.
Big 12, the almighty, powerful Big 12. One team standing, one team left. You can make the case they have a chance to win it all. We will find out. Houston's one of those teams where the last, 3 or 4 years, they have been very, very, very good. And they've had good runs in the tournament. But it almost feels like this year they got to find a way to get themselves to the championship to kind of, I don't want to cement the class that was Jamal Shed, which is a great player, by the way. If you've not got a chance to see him play, he's fantastic. There was some rumblings. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if you get in that gossip. You said you were a part of theater, so that maybe that's right in your wheelhouse. But there was some gossip that Caleb Love and R.J. Davis were feuding over a girl.
Really?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, and they both proceeded to go 0 for 9 from 3. Do you think that might have had any impact in both of their games?
Yes.
Nah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah,
as well.
I think
that's
it's
the real
definitely
hard-hitting journalism that these guys out there in the credentialed world need to get to.
But you are credentialed now.
But
you are credentialed
not
now.
totally, but kind of. Yes, we're halfway there. Speaking of which, we will be on 1410 Wing AM ESPN Radio next Thursday, largely because there's a whole mixed. When the Reds play at a certain time, the Reds are on the radio in Dayton, and that shifts things around. So as crazy as it sounds, it truly is happening. But Thursday, yesterday, speaking to your point about games being incredibly late in college basketball, yesterday I was up, I don't know, I considered it early. I know people will laugh at me when I say this is early, but I was up at like 5:45 a.
Wow.
Because I just needed to get a shower, get ready, and I had to be down at the Great American Ballpark around 7:30, 7:15 for the ESPN radio hit that we did live from Great American, which was fantastic. I'm not complaining about it by any stretch of the imagination. But when I tell you I got home last night after we had watched opening day, we did our show, I was tired, if we're being honest, and I laid down. And I was like, I got to make it. I got to watch these games. Usually when you do a sports talk show, you watch the games. That's the goal. So I lay down. I watch the Cubs play, right? And by the Cubs, I really mean the Rangers. So I was watching the Rangers play, and the Cubs got a bad break in the 7th inning maybe. They hit a ball down the line, and it bounced over the fence. They had a man on first that would have scored, that would have given the lead. Ultimately wound up to where the guy wasn't able to score. He had to go back to third because of the ground rule double. And then all of a sudden, an inning later, you had the whole pitch fiasco. So I was kind of locked into that game. And I had I don't want to say forgotten about March Madness, but it wasn't top of mind. Plus, just the opportunity to watch the Cubs possibly lose was right there. It was right there in front of me. So I continued to watch. That was a great baseball game. And that was probably the first time that I had watched Major League Baseball that was not the Cincinnati Reds in its entirety. I don't want to say – I can't even remember the last time, honestly. And I think that just goes to the point that Major League Baseball is a more consumable product. It's a more consumable product. The only issue that we continue to find ourselves in, if you are a baseball fan, is you have all these people yesterday – that were fired up about opening day. And whether or not it would matter, I don't know. But you have a captive audience. There's a significant amount of people in Cincinnati after what happened yesterday that would be interested in watching the Reds. And I know that this isn't like the most simplistic thing. I know there's people maybe much smarter than me that have already thought this out.
Sure.
Possibly. But I'm here to say, why the day off? Like, I get the idea, hey, if you get rain on opening day, easy fix. You just move it to the next day. Okay, well, that's fine. Let's just do that anyways, but have a game planned. And if we have to bang the second day game, then we'll bang the second day game, and it'll just become opening day again.
The tickets.
No problem.
Tickets.
What about tickets?
But the people, if you pay for opening day, you want to go to opening day, not the second game.
It wouldn't be the second game. The second game would get moved.
So you're moving 2 games and 2 sets of people's tickets.
I'm moving. Well, you're going to be moving one person's tickets regardless. All I'm doing is one extra movement. All I'm doing is taking the Saturdays, all I would be doing is taking the people that had tickets on Friday, right? And they would get moved to some date who knows when. And they would know beforehand, hey, just an FYI, if opening day gets rained out, that's the makeup day is the day. But I got a question for you. It seems like we overly prepare for something that never happens. And how many times in the last 30 years has opening day been canceled completely and moved to the next day? I think it's more advantageous if you're a league to capitalize on the fact that you just have this captive audience. Let's play the next day. And what my bigger point to all this is let's make sure that at some point they can watch it. We've talked ad nauseum on this show before about how ridiculous Major League Baseball's blackout rules are and how basically you got to be a rocket scientist to a certain degree to figure out how to get games locally if you don't want to purchase cable. It's impossible unless you know how to use VPN. It's all for a certain like you have a watchable product now. Now the question becomes, how do you get it in people's viewing experience that's easily accessible? I hope that comes. Is that going to come within the next 2 years, Kirby?
I'm hoping this is the last year. I mean, it seems like MLB's doing everything they can to get out from Bally. I mean, like the Diamondbacks, their setup is great. I think their fans love it. You can just purchase a simple package for the year. You can pay, I think it's like $100. You get to watch every Diamondbacks game for the whole year. I think a lot of Reds fans would love to just sign up for something like that, kind of be done with it, and you could just watch it on your app, watch it on your smart TV, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. There also could be there also could be Sunday off. Just a thought. I don't know. It's Easter. How many people you think are going to be down at Great American Ballpark this weekend on a Sunday, Nick? Just curious. I'm going to go with 4,000 people.
I agree. It stinks having no game on the second day. I just think logistically, because of how big the Reds opening day is, I know we're not really big into the parade, but that's a huge deal to a lot of people in the city. And so I think just being able to move everything.
But you're moving it anyways.
I think, but you have to move the second day's tickets.
What's the second day ticket matter if you move it to Sunday?
Well, then do you have to move the Sunday tickets too?
No. Okay, let me backtrack.
You gotta walk me through this.
You play Thursday. Let's walk right through this together. We're gonna hold hands doing this as one. You have opening day on Thursday. That doesn't change. Okay? You have a game Friday. You have a game Saturday. You have an off day on Sunday.
I'm sure Sunday's probably one of their biggest TV audiences. They don't want to take a Sunday off. There's a reason they take their games off in the middle of the week.
You think that the TV audience of Bally Sports Ohio is big ever enough to adjust what they could do in the stadium?
I think Saturday and Sunday they have pretty good viewership.
It's one of the bigger markets, no?
Yeah, the Reds have for the percentage of the population that gets the Reds broadcast. The Reds are typically like top 5, top 10. Even when they're bad, they've had pretty good viewership. The people don't go down to the stadium, but they sure as hell watch on TV.
Fair enough. I guess they're doing so well. Bally Sports is rocking and rolling. I'm just saying. I just think it's disappointing that you have a game on Thursday, which again it wouldn't change at all. There's no game Friday, right? And then Saturday, I don't want to say for the vast majority of people that you and we're not talking about us. We're talking to people. There's 164 people in the chat right now. We love sports. We're going to go out of our way to find them. I'm talking about if you're running a league, your job is not to, I don't want to say it's not to entertain us, but it's not to try to captivate our attention. It's to try to captivate the attention of people that, quite frankly, don't give a rat's tail until you try to make them care more. That's all. And it just seems like you have this unbelievable day where you get people excited about something, and then, hey, oh, by the way, tomorrow they don't play, and then they play on Saturday. Saturday, oh, by the way, all the casuals, I got news for you. They're not going out of their way to probably watch the game. And I know there's going to be people that are mad at me and say, well, this isn't a big deal. I'm not saying it's a big deal. I'm saying that if you're a marketing agency, if you're a business, it's in your best interest to try to cater to the casuals. That's how you grow your game. And it just seems to me that if you do have a rainout date on Thursday, you could shift it to Friday and then take Friday's tickets and shift them to Sunday. Not a problem.
I also think they've done this for so long. I mean, when was the last time they haven't done this? How many years? 40 years?
I don't ever remember the Reds not having the day off.
Yeah, so it's just part of the thing. I also think, like Nick said, it's such a big deal here. I think the players have to go to that parade. They've got to do stuff where they normally wouldn't have to do, be a part of the community. I think it gives everybody a reset day, gives them a break, calms everybody down, and it gets them excited for Saturday. Now, what I will mention is, Everett pointed out in the chat, how long has it just been an afternoon game on Saturday? Because I want the opening night back, not the opening afternoon.
Well, they shifted to opening day on Thursday, and so the Saturdays are pretty much always 4:10 games.
Yeah.
Opening day for a while was on Mondays, and then the second game was on Wednesday. So that I think was the real reason for the opening night, more so than anything else. I will say though, I did not like the Sweet 16 being the same day. I thought it's too much. I loved it when opening day and the national championship were on the same day, but I love college basketball. I was trying to watch these games last night, and it's just like
you didn't feel
I'm in baseball mode. It's too much.
I kind of agree with you. But at the end of the day, I power through it. I'm like, all right, how many days during the year do I get March Madness? And it's like I get like 5. So I had to remember that yesterday because I do understand it because I was flipping around too watching a couple different baseball games. And
I got a question for you.
Sure.
Do you think that if you took the NFL marketing and the NFL executives and you sit them and you put them inside with, Major League Baseball, do you think in any world that they would start their tournament on Thursday during Sweet 16 games? Or do you think that maybe they'd be like, I don't know, maybe we'll just start on Wednesday instead? Because at some point you realize what you just said earlier is the way of mediocrity. Well, we've done that all our lives. We've always done that. Here soon, I got news for you. In 2 years, the NFL, they don't give a damn they don't care what the protocols are. You want to play on Christmas Day and it's on a Wednesday? Guess what? Wednesday, NFL, we're playing on Christmas. We don't give a damn. We're going to play on Mondays. We're going to play on Thursdays. Oh, by the way, you got to get Peacock to watch the NFL playoffs now. They just don't care. You know why? Because they try to make their product unique as much as they possibly can, and they put it on in which times that people want to watch it. That's all. And I think that if you're Major League Baseball, at some point it would be nice to start to try to do the same, which would be, we know that we're not, first of all, the NFL's in a position now where they could just dominate every other league, so they could just step on other people's toes. But at some point, the Major League Baseball has to consider themselves not greater than certain things. And maybe I'm not suggesting for a single second they have to bow out or do all these other unique things, but it would just be nice, like you said, to where there's a little bit of a marketing brain behind Major League Baseball. And if you think that there's any proven point as to why I think that the Major League Baseball continues to find a way to step on their own, toes, if you will, is they started their season off. Their first game of the season was a 6 a.m. game in Tokyo. Okay?
Yeah, I can't defend that one.
Defend that.
There's no defending for that one. That one's a joke. I've said that's a joke. On a random Tuesday, I wake up and like, oh yeah, a game happened. Oh really? And then they go back to spring training afterwards. Sure, okay, that's preposterous. But
how would you do a game in Tokyo if you wanted to have an actual game that counted?
You wouldn't. It's unfortunate, but when you have a game at 6 a.m., I don't think there's a lot of people tuning in. Whether it's a Saturday, whether it's a Sunday, you get more eyeballs on Saturday, Sunday. That's for sure. But yeah, on a Tuesday, on a work week, nobody is staying up, and especially not on the West Coast where both those teams are from. At 3 a.m. their time, they're getting up and watching their teams play. It's difficult, and they're going to do it next year too. The Cubs and Dodgers, I believe, are announced to go. I think it is Tokyo. This year was in Korea. But to rebuttal Trace's point, you said it's mediocrity to do the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. I'd argue that if that's your point of view, why would you not change opening day? Why do you not make that a night game or something? Because it's worked. That's why they don't do it, because nobody's really had an issue with this.
I'm not trying to change opening day, to be clear.
Well, that's what
we can talk about Reds opening day.
But you are a little bit. You are a little bit.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that if I'm trying to change the fact that there's a day off when these guys are going to play 162 games in 195 days? I mean, we're taking a day off at the beginning of the season when you have the most captive audience of the year the very next day. And now you can say it doesn't matter to you because you don't care. You're built for 162. You want to watch all the games. I'm talking about just the random person that might have thought, hey, yesterday was awesome. Do the Reds play today? Because they don't know. And the answer is what? No. When do they play? They play Saturday at 4. Well, I got stuff going on. Wednesday, when do they play after that? Oh, they play on Easter. Oh, okay. By the time Monday rolls around, I don't know. They probably might not watch another game all year. I don't. And maybe you're thinking to me.
Oh, man.
Maybe you're thinking to me that you shouldn't care about those people. I'm just saying, if you're a good business, and you run a good business, you try to find ways in which you would cater to people that might not care about you at first, because you need to pull them in and you hope to make them care at some point. Now, I get it. Is it that big of a deal? Maybe not. But I'm not going to sit here and worry about Friday's game tickets that people bought and worry about them being able to get moved to Sunday. I'm just not. So let's just play it out. You get opening day tickets. It rains out. It rains out on Thursday, Elliot.
Yeah.
When are you going to the game?
I'll go the next day, whenever it happens.
Friday, right?
Yep.
I say we do the same thing, except people that have Friday tickets would just know that if opening day gets rained out, my tickets now are on Sunday because that's the rain out day.
But what if it rains Friday too?
Oh, so now we're going to worry about if it just rains out Thursday
It's possible.
and Friday.
If it's raining Thursday, it can rain Friday.
So let's play that out then. What would you do on opening day if it rained on Thursday and Friday? Just
Triple
curious.
header on Sunday. You gear up, you get Saturday off, and then you got...
Now that would be electric.
And then you got 3 in a row, and you go back to the way the MLB used to do it during COVID. You give them 7 innings each, different days. You're bringing up Louisville guys. That would be fun. You talk about a great opening day. And all the people who bought tickets for those 3 games, they're all out in the park. So that's what, 120,000? They're all allowed to be there. And if they spill onto the field, they spill onto the field.
I just think that, again, we'll move on. People want to move on. But it seems like a missed opportunity every single year when you realize that there's not a game the day after the most exciting game that many people feel like exists in Cincinnati every year.
I would have rather had the game on Monday after the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. I think that would and I think that would mean more than
that would be fine as well.
Than the day off.
So you're in favor of just moving opening day's day itself?
Yeah, I would not have put it on the same day as the Sweet 16. There may be something. Jolly would be a great guy to ask about this. I think there's something about where Fox has like set days they want the World Series to be. I think they like tell MLB we want the World Series on these particular days. So I think that has something to do with when they actually start the season to try to make sure they can end it right on those days. But I think that does play something into this.
All right. Reds opening day.
Let's talk about the game.
Yeah, we can talk about the game. Obviously, many people in our chat and people that watch this show know exactly what happened yesterday. But for those that might be underneath a rock, the Reds did find a way to win against the Nationals. A storyline that happened before the game even happened. And you know what? Like, he's going to get for the rest of his career made fun of for this.
Correct.
It's going to become a joke.
Correct.
Because there is some like weird, goofy irony that comes from the fact that Nick Senzel, a guy that clearly was a top prospect in this organization for quite some time, let's face it, he just never was healthy. He never was able to stay on the field long enough to give you a chance. And then when he did, he didn't perform maybe to the level in which we thought he was going to. But he gets another opportunity, right? He gets freedom. He goes to the Washington Nationals. Maybe he can bounce back. Maybe he can revitalize his career. First-round pick, the whole 9 yards. Where's he going to start his refreshed, reborn career? He's going to start it right back at Great American Ballpark because the Washington Nationals play the Cincinnati Reds. And my man gets taking ground balls during pregame and breaks his thumb. So he doesn't even get a chance to play in the game, mind you. But then now he's going to be out considerable time. You can't make this up. Like, if someone would have said, hey, Nick Senzel's going to get hurt on opening day, there would have been like an audible laugh because people would think that that's like your joke referencing back to how his career went in Cincinnati. The fact that it happened, and not only did it happen, but it happened in pregame and it didn't even happen during their actual game, it kind of sucks. But these guys are professional athletes. This does happen. There's many of people's careers that obviously have gotten cut short because of injuries. But shout out to Nick Senzel. Hopefully he can get back. But the game did go on. Frankie Montas, I think, in my opinion, I don't want to say it was the bigger story than Martini, because Martini became the third player in Reds history to ever hit multi-home run game on opening day. Adam Dunn did it twice off the top of my head. Why can't I think of the...
Frank McCormick.
Thank you. Frank McCormick did it once in 1941, and then you have now Nick Martini in 2024. So shout out to him for that. But Frankie Montas, I thought, was, in my opinion, the bigger story to talk about, largely because I think that is something that looks more replicatable, if that's a word. I don't know if it is.
Sure. But
Nick Martini, he's going to run into some home runs. You know, the crazy thing about Nick Martini, before I get into Montas, is Montas. I think that it is wild to me how some guys get multiple chances in the big leagues. Just chance and chance and chance and chance again. And they ultimately never stick, right? They hit their weight, and it takes them 3, 4, 5 years to finally get the hint that maybe they don't belong in the big leagues or they can't do it at the big league level. Nick Martini has done nothing but hit his entire professional career. And I think you can go back to when he was in college and he had like a 59, I think it was maybe more than that. I'll have to look this up. But he had an unbelievable college career as well. The guy's done nothing but hit his entire life. And he's never – this is the first time that he's made an opening day roster. Did I see that right?
Yes. Nick Martini, 138 career games against right-handed pitching. He's got a 291 batting average and 849 OPS. Like, it's a decent hitter. I think he deserves this chance, and good on the Reds for finding him. It's funny. I saw some people talking about this, and I forgot the Reds actually claimed Nick Martini before the season in 2019, and people like me who can always find the good in everyone were kind of excited about Nick Martini. Oh, he's kind of he played with the Cubs and the A's, and then he ended up not making the Reds, or he might have had that whole Bubba Thompson thing where they put him on the roster and then they found someone they liked better and they lost him, and he might not even have made it to spring training. But kind of a wild journey for him. But hey, at this point, I think he's legit. He deserves a chance at least to play every day versus right-handed pitching and kind of see what he can do.
I am looking at the Reds schedule right now. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the last off day that they will have until May. And doing this on the fly is not good. But is May the 9th? No. Somebody find that
They're
out for
off
me.
Thursday next week, aren't they?
Somebody figure that out for me. I want to know how many off days they have until June 1st. Please do. Montas. Again, how much you make of this, I don't know. But the fact that he came back and had the confidence to be able to just, I don't want to say throw strikes. That might sound like
5.
That might sound. They have 5. 5 off days from now until June 1st.
Not including today.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so that's fair. Moving on, because Sir Boy did a super chat for me to stop talking about that, so I'm going to do that out of your respect, Sir Boy. But Montas, for the guy to have confidence enough just to throw strikes more than anything, is the thing that I was most impressed with. Because it's like there's not only, let's just go back a year. Hunter Green last year, and again, I'm not trying to crush Hunter Green by any stretch of the imagination, but there's some pressure that comes with throwing on opening day. There's also the somewhat semblance of rust of just not being ready for the season, quite honestly. And I know that you have spring training, but you're not really ready until, I would argue, at least a couple starts into the season. And the fact that he came out and he got as far as he did and he was as efficient as he was, I don't know. I'll ask you guys the question. Was that more of Montas, or am I just being, I don't want to sound pessimistic, or is that just more of the fact that the Nationals are really bad?
I'm gonna say it was Montas. I thought that was as good of a performance as he could have had. Granted, I think again 4 hits, and how many of those were just soft little bloopers, I don't know. But yeah, I think the Washington Nationals are most definitely bad. But to get that done in 81 pitches against a major league team, that says a lot about you.
Dick?
I'd say a little bit of both. But he pitched really well. I mean, I think he only gave up 4 hard hit balls according to StatCast. Thing that was really interesting and cool to see, he really mixed his pitches very well. I mean, he threw as many splitters as fastballs. He threw all 5 pitches. But we'll get to see. His next start's going to be against the Phillies. So it'll be a vastly different lineup, and he'll get to prove if he can really, shut down a good lineup versus a pretty bad lineup in the Nationals.
It's certainly hard to argue that David Bell didn't make the right decision, though. To any of the David Bell haters that when that decision was made started having hissy fits, guys shut out the Nationals. So,
yeah, I'm not going to claim to know the baseball game, but I was listening to the broadcast and the radio because I had to listen to it on the way home.
You listened to both of them?
Yeah, I listened to both. The Cowboy.
At the same time or no?
No, not at the same time.
Okay.
The Cowboy said that he had really good control of it. He was throwing the ball to where he was commanding where they were going to hit the ball, not the batters. So I don't know exactly how you want to look at that or interpret that, but it sounds like he had really good control of the ball. And I think that's really important for your opening day pitcher to be in midseason form.
Yeah, like I said, that was maybe the most impressive thing is that I felt like he was in command, but at the same time, I think he started the game off with C.J. Abrams, and C.J. Abrams swung at a ball like maybe 7 inches inside, and then he swung at a ball above his head. So
shout out Reed.
Shout out Reed. Congratulations to Reed, by the way. I don't know, for those that were wondering, Reed became a Reds stan yesterday. He might not admit this, but he became a Reds stan a little bit. He started placing all these just random bets, like Frankie Montas to throw the first strike, and then he just like, oh, I won that one, so let me do this one. It'll be the Reds to score the first run, and then he won that one, and I think he took the Reds to score the first 3 runs, and then after that he took. This is not an exaggeration. I'm not spicing this up for the show. Reed Mouse, I think, won like 8 bets in a row.
Can't confirm.
Doing that same thing. He just kept going and going and going, and then he lost it all in the Cubs that night, unfortunately for him. That stinks for him, but at least the Reds won him his money back, so good kudos. But I was watching that, and I just thought to myself, is it so much as Montas is commanding, or is it just, again, the Nationals are the Nationals? They're supposed to win how many games this year? 58 games?
is that right?
That's just so bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's a brutal
games.
division to be in. I mean, you're rebuilding. You have Jesse Winker batting third, and you got
That seemed like slander.
the Atlanta Braves, the Philadelphia Phillies.
Jesse Winker had a big hit yesterday, and
Big time.
then he tried to extend it to second base on a routine single. It was a tough play by my guy, if I'm going to be completely honest. I like Jesse Winker. I'm not going to take any slander for him.
That's right. What would you do? Let me paint you the picture, Elliot. Will you? Let me ask you a question,
Sure.
Elliot.
I'd love to.
How would you feel if I told you today that you had to leave your family, quit our job, you're going to do the same job, but you get shipped all the way to Seattle? How would you feel, Elliot?
I'd be sad, Trace. I'd be real sad, and I probably wouldn't be as an efficient of an employee as I am here today. That's for sure. So
That's
shout
debatable.
out to Jesse Winker. Did he get it? I didn't. I went down yesterday. I couldn't get in. I tried to sneak my way past a security guard.
Oh, yeah?
Did not work.
Why is this not on video?
Did not work because
That's a
I had
missed
nobody.
opportunity.
I was by myself. Nobody was there to record me.
No friends?
The tickets, and I shout out to Game Time, but unfortunately, all the tickets were sold out by the time I got there. There was one left on there for like $400 in a section that usually wouldn't be like $50. So I couldn't pull the trigger on that one. I couldn't do it. But what I tried to do, I was at the back of the ballpark, right by that terrible Heritage Bank. You know that gate? What I'm talking
Okay.
about?
The world's worst arena.
The world's worst arena. I tried to sneak my win in. I'm like, hey guys, look, I've got this ticket. My dad sent me his barcode because he got into the game. So I was like, hey guys, so I got this. You guys don't need to scan this, right? Because I was like the bottom of the first. I can just walk in. Like, no, you can't. And I'm like, okay. So then I just went to a bar downtown. But nonetheless, I tried. I tried my best to get in there. I tried to weasel. It turns out Red Security, A+. A+ on that one. But yeah, no, I don't even know what I was talking about when I started this rant.
Jesse
I lost
Winker.
it.
Jesse Winker.
Are we sure it was Jesse Winker, or did I finish that rant? I think we did.
Yeah, I think you're good.
I think I'm good.
I think you rounded it all the way out.
Yeah,
you did an
I
excellent
lost myself
job
telling my story.
And you know, listen, that's the type of basically excellency that you would not get if you got shipped to Seattle. To be fair.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Shipping to Seattle.
You would have not been that good.
Sleepless
that rant
in
you just went
Seattle.
on. That rant you just went
Yeah.
on would have not been as efficient.
No.
If you got shipped.
Michael
to
Rolfe,
Seattle.
by the way, king of super chats. He
Yes.
has another super chat for you. New case of Pawnee water just arrived. Let's go. I won't say that because we're on the radio next Thursday. Superhero water. And it is. It is superhero water.
That's right. Some would say it's the best tasting water in the world.
Some would.
Premium alkaline.
Premium alkaline water, 8+, not a 7, not a 9, but
We're getting all of our ad reads out of the way really early. We dropped game time. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly the reason why you didn't get in is because everyone was using the game time
That's
app.
100% correct.
Yep.
And then we
Every
dropped
single
Honey
human
Water
being
in
was
here.
there. I kept getting outbid on tickets, so I was done with it.
Well, and because of how high the market was, because there's no game on Friday. I mean,
That's
the
what we're
Reds.
talking about.
Exactly. And it came back to bite you yesterday. If there was a game on Friday, Elliot, those prices would not have been as crazy.
Yeah.
Not
It's-
even close.
It is interesting when the gas prices are high, though. Yesterday, gas prices appeared to be low when there's 45,000 there.
Right.
But on a weekday, Tuesday night, gas prices, it's never been higher.
I do love. There's some semblance of like, what's the right word to use here? Of like disappointment, I guess, is that you have such a fan base that gets up for a specific event, and I understand why. It's opening day is kind of like the Kentucky Derby to a certain extent. There's many people that go and they enjoy themselves, and maybe they might not be, for the Kentucky Derby analogy, they might not be horse racing experts, or they've never watched a horse race in their life, but they're just there to be seen. They're there to have fun, and it's basically a party to them. But the fact that there's that many people that go to one of 162 on opening day, one is special. But second of all, it would be unbelievable if we, and again, this is pie in the sky, never will happen, but it would be unbelievable if we could take that same energy and just apply it kind of throughout the year a little bit, and then to get ourselves in a position where if we are in a pennant race, gas prices wouldn't be a problem, and we would have more than 8,000 people at the ballpark when there's 15 games left and you're within 1 or 2 games of a wild card spot.
It's what I think there'll be less demand for a playoff game than there is for opening day. I think
100%.
Yeah, I think tickets it would probably be cheaper for playoff games on the Game Time app.
The only thing that would be more is the World Series.
Yeah, I mean the
Maybe
deeper
the
they go.
CS. The CS. That's a good poll question of the day.
Poll question of the day.
Poll question of the day.
Are gas prices going to be high when...
No, let's not do that. Ellie's trying to get us in trouble. What playoff series would be more expensive than opening day?
Would playoff series be more expensive than opening day?
That's not the right way to do it. I need someone with a bigger brain than me to think about how to say this.
That's
you know-
right.
No, because I want to know. All right, here you go. I got it. It's going to be a little confusing, but bear with me, okay? It was early morning, not as a late night, but you get it. My brain is not operating at full capacity. What playoff series would cost more than opening day? Would it be the wild card round, NLDS, NLCS, World Series?
I think it would be the World Series. I do think
That's it. You don't think the CS would cost more?
Well, I think if the Reds had like games 1 and 2, I think opening day would be more than those games. But if it gets to like a game 7, a chance
game 7.
to go to the World Series, I think that would be higher. As someone that does live in a town that has been in the playoffs several times, ALCS tickets were not that high for games 1 and 2.
How much were they? Do you remember? 200?
I got a standing room only ticket for like $45.
So it's
Are you serious?
for an ALCS game in
NLDS,
2017, 18, 16,
World
something like
Series.
that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wild card, NLDS, NLCS, World Series.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what would happen in Cincinnati if that were the case. I'd love to find out. It'd be interesting to know what the ticket prices would be for an NLCS and or World Series.
I do think
Open.
World Series is going to win this, though, right? I probably shouldn't have added World Series.
No, I think that it's what's the lowest level? What's the lowest level? So like I know that you didn't type it in there 100% right, and that's okay. We'll move on. But for those that are picking, what's the lowest level playoff that would cost more than opening day? So if your answer is the NLCS, then you know the answer is also the World Series.
Yeah.
If you pick wild card, then you're thinking that no matter what, every playoff ticket's going to cost more than opening day, which is not the case.
No
that's
chance.
a bad choice. But it's on there because we're a democracy and we want you to pick
That's right.
whatever you want. But as far as to wrap up opening day talk,
Oh, I don't want to wrap it up. I have more.
what else do you have?
Jonathan India, there were a couple. I think there was one inning where he just recorded every out, and I
here we
saw
go. Do we
no
have to do
comments
this?
I saw no comments from you two. He had a great
That's
game.
not
He had a
true.
We
wa-
talked about Jonathan
Yeah.
India and praised his defense on the postgame
Yeah,
show.
exactly.
Yeah, I heard that. It seemed like a short segment though. He had a
That's
walk.
all it needed to be.
He had a walk. He had a base hit. He was a great defender. Trey spent the past week and a half saying if John India plays second base, he'll die. Trace will roll over and die on the cement here in Hamilton.
I might.
So no, it was good. It was good to see him play great defense.
Yeah,
If
just
I-
took him playing in multiple different positions all spring training
Yeah.
to learn how to play second base.
That's
a great
I
comment.
was waiting for a certain reporter's tweet after Ellie had an incredible diving stop at short and then hurled the ball to the dugout. I was waiting for a reporter's tweet. I didn't get it. I don't think I ever got it.
Wi-Fi must have gone out at the ballpark.
Press box way.
Did you hear Barry's take about Jonathan India that Casey was just mentioning?
What?
Yeah, so he on air said, Jonathan India looks really good at second base. I think it's because he's played every other position besides second base in spring training. I think that's really helped him develop his game. And
He
it
almost
also-
did it exactly how he did it.
Yeah.
And Casey just did an unbelievable job.
Nailed it.
He just nailed that. I mean, that's exactly almost what he said.
Yeah, I can't help Barry. I try to help Barry. Thank God Chris was there yesterday.
Chris was very confused too. Or I don't know if it was Chris, but someone was very confused. They're like, "Can you explain that again, Barry?"
No,
He tries to do it again.
Barry
and
can't
he
explain
just-
it. Barry,
yeah,
I try to watch Barry, but God bless him. Other than that, I thought again this is overreaction Friday. Jamer Candelario is just going to be terrible all year. isn't he?
Oh my!
He's just gonna be Will Myers 2.0. That's what we've gotten here.
If he's Will Myers 2.0, what a
Never sign a free agent again.
yeah, we're
Well, no,
done.
you can't. At some point, you just lose. You're just a loser. And the Reds are losers when it comes to signing these guys. I'm going to give them a month and a half.
They did sign Frankie Montas.
That's true, too. But we're talking specifically bats. Only
Oh,
one
okay.
bat has ever hit. Nick Castellanos is the only free agent bat that's ever hit in my lifetime. So I am a little concerned about that. 3 strikeouts. He was uncompetitive all day long.
Can we maybe give him a little break here? He's batting in the 4th hole, and he's going up against a pitcher that doesn't really throw in the strike zone either. And he's just trying to hit the crap out of it, right? That's what you do.
Yeah, but here's my argument against that. Every single person just started mashing baseballs against him, and he was the only one that couldn't find it.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, Nick
That's fair,
Martini
that's
hit 2
fair.
home runs yesterday, and you're telling me Candelario can't make contact once?
Well, they were former teammates, so maybe
Sure,
Josiah
maybe-
Gray had a little bit of an insight into
Maybe the
to
fix was in.
Candelario.
You're right.
Yeah.
Maybe the fix was in. I'm trying to think of anybody else that had a great game. Will Benson was very close from having an elite game as well.
Suter came home.
Suter was awesome. The press conference was awesome with his kid. I thought that was incredible. I'm glad they let him go 2 innings. Let me ask you guys this, because this was a big uproar on Reds Twitter, and I thought it was absolutely laughable. And this is what you get when you get on Reds Facebook, and I don't mean to make fun of people who use Facebook, but Reds Facebook is respectfully, and I say this with love, and I say this with respect, it's a cesspool. They were complaining yesterday that Frankie Montas should have gone all 9 innings because he only threw 81, and they were really upset that they took him out in the 6th inning.
We want to push a guy that was hurt all last year.
Correct.
Next start's against the Phillies, so you're up 7-0, or they were up very big at that point.
7 runs.
I mean, call it a day. Let him get some rest. Get ready for a big start against the Phillies coming up next. That's such a non-issue. I don't even understand.
I don't get it either. And it's if you look around the league, it's just not how it operates anymore. It's not how Major League Baseball is. You don't see guys going complete games every night now. You don't see it.
Well, and you have a fresh bullpen, too. I mean, it was a chance to get Pagan and Suter their first game in a Reds uniform. It's nice when you have new guys in your bullpen. You could throw them out the first time in a low-leverage situation where there's not a lot of pressure on them. You get them to be comfortable. It just that's wild. People would be complaining about that.
Yeah, there's no way you can complain about that because I think that the bigger point isn't so much that Montas throws longer. You can say Montas. I'm going to say Montas.
Frankie.
But here's the thing. The bigger point was what he just mentioned, which is you get guys an opportunity to pitch in a new uniform in an environment that is probably, you would argue, the most nerve-wracking environment that they'll have in a quite considerable time. Not from a leverage standpoint, but just from an atmosphere standpoint. But you put them in a position where if they do struggle a little bit, like Pagan, nobody's talking about Pagan today giving up a 2-run bomb. Yeah, I got news for you. If that 2-run bomb came in a 1-run game, that's all everybody would be talking about. And just like Stuart Fairchild dropping a fly ball in Chicago, Elliott would be talking about Pagan for the next 3 or 4 months about how bad he is. So it's a great job by giving those guys an opportunity to come in a low-leverage situation, get their feet wet, so the next time they come in, there's some more familiarity there, and hopefully they perform better. We'll find out. Emilio also, that wasn't a bad pitch that he got a home run hit on. I know you could do that a lot. You can say, oh, the hitter was the one that obviously that was the reason as to why there was a home run. It wasn't a bad pitch. I will say it was a pretty decent pitch, but I'm not going to continue to do that for him every single time he gives up a home run because at some point your stuff's either good enough or it's not.
Yeah, 100%.
What were you saying?
I was just going to change. I was going to shift my next little thing here real quick.
You have another opening day comment?
Yeah, because we were about to close that whole opening, and this is kind of my point. We were about to close that whole opening day talk.
Yeah.
Without even mentioning Spencer Steer.
Yeah. So you looked at the chat.
Spencer Steer.
Okay.
He was on my list.
No. So you looked at the chat.
He's on my list.
Nah, I think you looked at the chat.
Spencer Steer is just going to be the most valuable guy we have all year.
Let's pump the brakes.
I'm going to stand. I'm going to stand by it.
Let's pump.
He's going to play in 158 baseball games. He's going to hit around 275. He's going to have an OBP around 350. He is a great player. A great player. When we need a big hit, Spencer Steer is there to deliver. I'd argue so is Jake Fraley, but this is about Spencer Steer.
Right. Spencer Steer, by the way, very close to disaster yesterday that we all quickly forgot because it wasn't disaster. But was
Thank
very,
God
very,
for
very,
the flap.
very,
Thank God for the
thank
flap.
God for the flap. Very close to being devastating. You want to talk about bringing the vibes down tremendously. That ball is like, another 6 inches to the left, and he doesn't have as quick of a reaction, and we're sitting here talking about how we're another man down. So shout out to Spencer Steer. The craziest thing about all that is that Spencer Steer defensively, you would argue, isn't even one of their better options in the outfield. He gets hit in the face, kind of, and they just leave him in there. That was a wild move. I'm not trying to say overreact and say it was a big deal, but the idea that you couldn't just sub in somebody there for him and just allow him to kind of come out of the game. Maybe he said, no, I'm not coming out of the game. Maybe he was like dead set on it and he felt good about it, but I was shocked when they left him in. But shout out to the heavens above for allowing Spencer Steer to be safe there because he is important to this team. If he continues to look the way that he's looked, Reed kind of got in my head a little bit about saying that he thinks that was Spencer Steer's ceiling last year. So I started maybe like, I might buy into that a little bit. But he continues to look the part. Like his at-bats look different. He looks comfortable. He looks balanced. He sees pitches well. Will Benson, very much the same type of guy. Their at-bats just look like there's some comfort there. There's not too many bad swings and misses if there are swing and misses. So shout out to Spencer Steer. We'll see ultimately kind of where he fits in this team. You'd like to think he's going to continue just to stick out there in left field. Do you think he gets that many opportunities in the infield again or no?
I don't think so. I mean, the fact they're playing Jonathan India over him at second base, it seems
when he said, not to cut you off, but when we said, you asked him at Reds Fest what his most comfortable position is, and he said second base.
Yeah, so it seems like they I mean, you never know because there could be more injuries, God forbid, or something like that. But I think he's going to play in the outfield. I was a little surprised that they didn't bring in Bubba Thompson late in the game. Maybe if the game was closer, they would have. Maybe David Bell's like, hey, we got a big lead. I want to show some confidence in Spencer Steer, not just take him out late in the game, in game one. But I do think you'll see him move around maybe more. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, like, late in the game, do you move him to, like, first base to keep him in the lineup and put someone else in the outfit, or are they removing him completely from the game? Because that's going to be, if the Reds blow a lead and then you have Bubba Thompson or Stuart Fairchild batting instead of Spencer Steer in a spot later in the game, I'm sure that might raise a few eyebrows around town, but that'll be something to watch.
Yeah, we'll see. And obviously CES struggled a little bit yesterday as well, but since he's young and he's not Jamie or Candelario, we won't bring him up. But I feel good about where this lineup is as a whole, the offensive lineup, the depth that it presents. Question ultimately will come down is the starting pitching hopefully going to exceed our expectations. It was such a disappointment last year that is the biggest. We talked about all the individual player opportunities of who could improve the most. we've probably done a poor job a little bit, I guess, on this show specifically, talking about the opportunity that the starting pitching has to lift up the areas of deficiency that we had come to expect regression in, right? So maybe these rookies and maybe these sophomore slumps will exist or come to be at certain times this year, but can the starting pitching be so much better than it was last year that that's actually where you kind of fulfill the void of some regression? We will find out. It is nice to know that Hunter Green's like your next man up, and then after that there's a chance, and I get Nick Martinez as slotted in that third spot, and I'm not trying to be like degrading to Nick Martinez. Some of it's because I've not got a chance, obviously, to see him pitch as much as I have the other guys. But I think more importantly, the fact that if Nick Lodolo is what they say he is, which is looking as good as he's ever looked, now that's a big statement to make. But the fact that it could be at some point this year that Nick Lodolo is like your third guy in line, then at this point you can't convince me this team won't make the playoffs. If healthy, of course. So we'll find out. But any other final parting thoughts on Reds opening day? It's 11 o'clock. We have to get to ad reads before the chat starts yelling at us.
It was a great start. It was honestly, you couldn't have asked for a better start for this specific season, given how wrong things went during spring training. We needed that. Your guy Tyler Stevenson looked good. Everybody looked good except for Candelario. He'll be cut by June. But the rest of them all looked phenomenal, and we'll go from there. How about that?
Parting thoughts.
CES was over 4 for me if you really
Yeah, but I
wanna-
like CES.
Okay. All right. You like him. So
That's how it works with Elliot.
Okay.
You just got to get on his good side. Lindsay, how many Reds games will you watch this year? Being dead honest.
Dead honest?
Yes.
Maybe like a handful. I'm not really a Reds fan. I'm
Okay.
not against the Reds, but I'll definitely be watching more Pirate games than Red games.
Okay.
What?
So you're a Pittsburgh Pirate fan.
Yes.
Come to
They
know.
won yesterday.
You're not watching more Pirates games. What channel are they on?
I don't know what channel the Reds are on. I just
You're not
Find
watching the Pirates. They don't
I do
televise
want-
those games.
I mean, the other
But I'm
top
gonna
two teams in the
go.
NL Central right now.
They are.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, neck and neck.
Yeah.
1-0.
Battle
I'm
of
gonna
wits.
go to the games, the Pirate games.
Huh?
I'm gonna go to the Pirate games.
All right. I do like the Pirates ballpark.
PNC
Pirates
Park
ballpark.
is fantastic.
It's my favorite ballpark.
Yeah.
So we just found out live on the show that you're like a Pittsburgh Pirates fan.
Well, she's a Steelers fan.
Steelers fan, Penn State fan. I don't like OSU. I don't like.
What about the
Bengals.
Hershey's factory?
Interesting.
What about the? Are you
I've
pro the Hershey factory?
Sure, I've never been, but
How
Not
far
really.
away is the Hershey factory from
Hershey, PA from Pittsburgh. I don't know.
I think it's quite a ways.
Yeah. I don't know my geography in Pennsylvania.
Do you know your geography here?
Absolutely. You name the town, I'll tell you where it's at.
Youngstown.
That would be north.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Winner.
Northeast. I live
You
near
have-
Youngstown.
I'm being told we have umpire scorecards, so I'm going to try to find those real quick while Casey reads it.
Oh, are you going to get on the umpire's case about yesterday?
We're going to find out.
Really?
We're sure going to find out.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We will do ad reads when we come back. We'll talk about who knows what. But more importantly, probably March Madness. And the Reds will probably sprinkle in from here and there for throughout the rest of the show. And at some point, we've been saying this for quite some time. Today was the day to probably do it. We'll talk about some programming notes towards the end of this show, and we'll go from there. So, but we got to do ad reads first because they pay the bills around here, and Casey McAllister does it better than all of us, so we'll send it to him.
Yeah, before we do the ad reads, I'm going to just read this super chat out real quick from Big C. $5 super chat. Big C, the Viking helmet guy. Chatterbox road trip to PNC Park.
Not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea. Maybe one day we'll
As
go
long as it's on a
to
plane.
couple baseball parks.
It's only 3 hours away.
Huh?
It's only like 3.5
We're gonna
hours
have to get
away.
to the bottom of Lindsay's fandom after ad reads.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta figure
It's
this out.
all-
Now that I just thought
it's all
about it, like
Pittsburgh.
just to confirm here before we go to ad reads, just to confirm, you are from Columbus, correct?
I am. My parents.
Okay, there we go. All right, she's from Columbus. We'll get to the rest of it here in a moment.
mean,
Go
it's-
ahead, Casey.
I don't think it's that difficult. It's all like Pittsburgh fandom except for Penn State, which is I'm not sure if that's Pittsburgh or not, but
Pretty sure it
regardless.
Yeah, that fandom doesn't matter. That team doesn't win.
Yeah, the Encore report, the Reds report, is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and...
Productivity.
That's right, Kirby, productivity. Visit
Productivity.
encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. And let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here. Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNI water.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. And then let me talk to you guys about our ticketing sponsor, the Game Time app. Hopefully a lot of you guys used it yesterday for the opening day ticket selection. And if you did, you would have seen that it's 2 simple clicks. You get your tickets. You get to see exactly where you're sitting at. Tickets were available right up until probably like the end of the first inning. I mean, it's called the Game Time app. They have tickets available until start of game time. So that's kind of their thing. Check them out. I'm sure they're going to have more tickets available for many more Reds games. If you haven't already done so, download it. Use code OTB for a chance, to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app. Go watch some Reds.
That's right.
NFC. I think they play later.
Sir Boy Wonder says that Chatterbox Sports only hires Ohio State haters.
That's just not right.
The more I think about it, it's not far off.
Don't we have the biggest Ohio State fan in the world?
That is true. Sean is a pretty big Ohio State fan. He is kind of owns the company.
What about Tom?
And Tom, I would say, is the biggest Ohio State homer that there is. Ohio State. I was thinking that the other day. Tom called games with Ohio State in them. How did he do that? That takes a true pro.
It does.
He obviously, he knew that he couldn't openly root for them. How often do you think that happens in sports in general, where there is a broadcaster or a broadcast team that is supposed to be biased or not supposed to be biased? They're supposed to be non-biased. They're supposed to be neutral, and they, in their heart of hearts, are rooting for whatever reason. They are rooting significantly for one side, and you just don't know it because they're that professional. Do you think Jim Nantz ever found himself in that spot?
I'm sure he has, but I think you get through it, right? There's professionals. You're a professional, you're a pro.
Happens a lot in baseball. There's a lot of the national broadcasts will use local broadcasters. Like when Tom was with Fox Sports, like he would do the Fox Saturday Game of the Week after the night before he's calling it from a local hometown. I know Jeff Levering does for the Brewers. He's done several national games for the Brewers after kind of being their local guy and following the team all year. So it happens a lot in baseball.
Yeah. And we have a journalist that actively roots for the Cubs and has a Cubs podcast, but still writes for the Reds. So it's about being objective.
It's fair. Brian B. says that Tom was biased openly rooting for App State.
App State?
Yeah, Appalachian State.
Shocking the college football world.
That wouldn't shock me. Although I think Tom's, the ultimate professional in regards to being able to try to make sure that you do a great job. It would really be hard not to start to buy into that story. The only way that you wouldn't be able to do it, in my opinion, is that you would literally be a Michigan fan, because everybody else in the country that was not a Michigan fan was rooting for the same thing. Similar to March Madness, which I guess we'll segue into that here in just a second. But similar to March Madness, when you have an underdog that has a chance to make it happen, to get over the hump, to win, the rest of the crowd, no matter who you were rooting for before, starts to root for them. That had to have been what happened throughout the country when Appalachian State. Now at this point, not to date us, but I am worried when you said App State and you were confused over there. Elliot, in my mind, I'm scared to ask, but did you see that game live? When you were, do you even know what we're talking about?
I do know what game you're talking about. I don't know. I know I didn't watch it live. How old was I when that happened?
Did you even know what was going on? Did you know that even happened?
Let me look. App State, Michigan year.
You've seen it because it's an
so I was 8 years old. Correct. I was pretty.
You were 8?
I was 8 years old.
I was in college.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was 8 years old. So it was difficult for me to comprehend that one. But I have watched the highlight, and that's all.
Sometimes I forget the age discrepancy in here, a little bit.
Lindsay
The
was
fact
probably 3 for that one.
I was not 3.
Yeah, Lindsay.
I wasn't 3. I was 6.
Nobody gets more offended about the age thing than
Yeah.
Lindsay. Elliot every single day finds a way to be. I think you're doing it because you're funny. You attempt to be funny.
Thank you.
I would even give you.
No, you already said it. You already said it. You can't change your answer. You already said it.
No take back.
But here's the thing: you do it every day to her by the standpoint of being like, "Oh, well, you're too young to know that." And she does this every single day where she starts to scream back at you. Scream is probably too derogatory of a term.
Scream is crazy. I don't.
Scream.
She screams.
She doesn't scream. All right. She gets a little upset at the fact that you are only 2 years older than her. That's what she
Yeah,
suggests. every
youth
day.
is a compliment, and I tell Lindsay, you're so very young. Can you even drink? Can you even vote? How old are you? We don't know. And Lindsay gets very offended by it. So I thought it was growing up. I always said, you don't ask anybody their age. You just assume they're really young because that's really helpful. But Lindsay doesn't like it. She's the only person in the world that doesn't like to be called young. So I guess I'll call her grandma now. I
Because
don't know.
I'm not that young as you perceive me to be.
We'll see.
Isn't that how women work in general, though? If
No,
we're being
now we're
honest,
going
not
down
to
this
go down this route, but let's be
Yeah.
honest. You can't.
No comment.
You can't. Well, I'm just saying.
No comment.
They don't want to be called too young, but then when they get to a certain age and you say they're not young anymore, then you're in trouble as well. It's a tough spot to be in sometimes, if we're being honest.
Somebody say
Elliot,
you're
look at
just
Elliot
always
over
in
here.
trouble.
Can we get a shot on Elliot? He doesn't want to say anything at all right now.
I'm not saying anything. You brought us in down that hole. Sports.
That's
Nick,
right. March Madness. Am I openly allowed to say?
Actually, real quick. Casey, FCC news.
What? FCC news. They
Yeah,
play.
any
play.
FCC news?
They play a game this weekend.
Who do they play?
I'll have to look that
And
up.
this is where they lose me. They play one game a week. What do you play? Who are you playing? We don't know. This is
They're
what
on top of their table right now. They're going to be playing Charlotte FC. They're probably ranked
Is that an
like
expansion
fifth.
team, Charlotte FC? I've never heard of them.
I don't know if they're an expansion team or not, but they're like fifth or sixth on the table. Should be a decent game. I expect FC to win that.
I expect
They're
their
about
record
to-
right now is what you said?
Their record is 3-2, I believe.
3-0-2.
3-0-2.
3-0-2. Okay, FCC talk. To say we don't, there's people in the comments that
Or
say we root
4-0-2.
against FCC. That was just a full segment about FCC. So now let's talk about March Madness.
Man, you throw him under the bus every time.
Come on, that was
You
what do
throw
you
him
want me to
right under the
do?
bus. You throw him
I
right
get told.
under the
I
bus.
get told to talk about FC Cincinnati. I don't personally know anything about it, so I asked my FC expert. I said, "Who do they play?" And he says, "I don't know." I tried my best. I can only do so much as an FCC supporter. Have they hired the reporter back yet? Do we know that?
Well, she was only suspended, and yes, she is back.
Okay,
She's back?
That's all that matters.
Laurel-
Laurel's back.
Laurel's
Fun
back.
fact, Laurel from. I don't want to say that. I'm pretty sure she's from Hamilton, but if not, she writes for the Hamilton paper. So there's that. Fun news, fun nugget. So Laurel obviously got kicked out of the FCC credentials. She got her credentials suspended, was the term. That became a national story. So shout out to FC Cincinnati for that. March Madness. Let's get to it. I don't know if we're going to give UConn the amount of respect they ultimately deserve.
I don't think so.
Regardless, UConn is so much better than everybody else that I think that what are the live odds, if you might spare me, Elliot?
Yep.
What are the live odds on a future bet right now for UConn to win the national championship?
I'm gonna
And
look.
if it's anything over plus 200, I think that is a great value. Because at this point, maybe it's overreactionary, but the idea that they aren't just winning games, they are winning games going away. They are winning games that aren't even relatively, even remotely close. I don't know if there's anybody that can match up with them to ultimately beat them outside of maybe you can convince me Purdue.
Plus
Now,
120.
Or
Plus
Houston.
120.
Plus 120 to win the national championship.
So is it? What's the field? Can you do the field?
Yeah, you can. Field is minus 154.
Oh,
UConn plus 120.
that drops
Minus
a little bit.
154.
Could you play the
What?
field?
Yes.
Could you play the field? I'm assuming you could play the field alternatively through everybody else, but just not playing the field. And what I mean by that is let's carve out what's one team that we think will not win the national championship right now.
Clemson.
He says Clemson.
Illinois.
Sirboy's not going to be happy with that.
Illinois.
Illinois is not going to win.
I do have a future in Illinois.
Okay, so you have a
NC
future on
State.
Illinois, but you don't think they're going to win.
NC State.
I'm just doing it to jinx.
Gotcha. So
NC State. NC State's a good one.
That's Elliot's brain. He made a bet that he doesn't believe is going to win. Put his own hard-earned money on that. So you're saying who?
My first one was Illinois, but my second one, NC State.
So NC State? Let's just say NC State. If you took NC State out of it, well, what's the second best odds? Let's start there.
Houston, plus 600.
So you have 6
Tied
teams.
with Purdue at plus 600.
Let's be clear. If it's plus 600, we could pick 5 teams to win the national championship and still be plus money.
I think Houston was like plus 600 at the beginning of the tournament.
Yeah.
So we have plus 600, and
I think-
then what?
I mean, there's great value for Creighton. If you want to believe in Creighton, Creighton's plus 2,500 still.
And
Wow.
if you happen to still
They
have
got a tough road, though.
you still
Yeah,
happen to
but-
have a boost too, you can boost the field too. Like I have like a 30% boost, and I can boost it to minus 115.
I just
mean,
don't
like,
know if you want. Genuinely, right now, I would take UConn.
Let me ask you this, Trace. What if you like to make those bets where it's like minus 10,000, you put 100 grand on it, and you win $50? Why wouldn't you not do this one? Connecticut or Purdue to win it all at minus 150. You get both teams.
I think Houston's right there too. I mean, I think
You can
it's one of those 3 teams.
You can do both. Minus 150 for each of them. Connecticut and UConn, Connecticut or Purdue. Both minus 150, you get both teams. Why wouldn't you sprinkle your mortgage on it?
You just said Connecticut and UConn, and Connecticut and Purdue. What did you mean by that?
Connecticut and Houston, Connecticut, Purdue.
Thank you. Okay.
But you won all 3. Because you could do 2, and the other one's the winner. You want to talk about the worst bet ever? I took Houston plus 600 with the boost pre-tournament. And they're still plus 600 after making the Sweet
that's
16.
terrible. I also
That is
took it.
brutal.
I also took it. But it is interesting. Trace is right. I watched that UConn game, and I mentioned it in my little thing at the beginning of the show. It's not the same sport that they play. It's just they slowly kill you, and you're never really in the game. San Diego State fought for half of that game. And then towards the end of the first half, they started to pull away, and in the second half, it wasn't competitive whatsoever. That Klingon guy's a beast. I like him a lot. And I don't know who this other guy is, Spencer. If I was a college basketball expert, I'd know Cam Spencer. But that guy's awesome too. So UConn, if I was a betting man, which I am, I agree with Trace. You look at UConn at plus 120 and you hammer it. Because at this point, no team has even threatened them.
Yeah, I mean, they have a chance to lose in the Final Four. Certainly, I don't think they have it. They play Illinois next. Is that right?
And then they play the winner of Clemson, Alabama.
Wow.
Assuming they would make the Final Four. So they've got a pretty good path to the championship at this point.
Incredible. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're telling me right now you could do Clemson and UConn, or not Clemson, but you're telling me I could do UConn and Purdue and UConn and Houston, and it's even money?
Yeah, well, minus 150. Minus 150. Which is pretty close to even money, if I'm going to be honest.
But the problem with that is you can't place both of those bets and come out on the positive side.
No, not
That's the tough
necessarily,
part.
but you could do. Yeah, not necessarily.
I'm just saying I would argue that both of those teams could be.
I think you can
could
fade
be
it. You can do
UConn.
Purdue and another team.
You could do Purdue, UConn minus 150, and then take Houston to plus 600 and probably have a decent.
Real quick question. If UConn were to get to the national championship and they were to play Purdue or they were to play Houston, what do you think the money line is on that? I'm asking the chat too. What's the money line on that? That's the tough
It's
part
under
about
200, I think.
You think it's under 200?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, because if you got to the point where you still believe that it would be around 200, then you could convince me you could place both of those bets. And then when you get to the end, if you're in a spot where you have to kind of hedge it, you would just hedge it on the fact that you're going to bet against UConn money line, and you wouldn't win a lot of money, but you'd be in the green. I don't know. But like I said before, sportsbooks have figured this all out, and it would be devastating when Clemson and or Alabama were to beat UConn. That would foil the plan.
That would foil the plan.
So
Alabama, I will say, I think they're better than like your traditional 4 seed.
Agree.
Because they struggled a lot at the beginning of the year. They had a lot of new players. I think I heard on the broadcast last night they have 3 new assistant coaches, which is wild. But they're playing, I think, more like a top seed than a 4 seed. I think they're probably closer to a 1 seed than a 4 seed right now, in my opinion.
Speaking of which, yesterday Louisville had the press conference for Pat Kelsey, obviously a local man here.
Great
Many
head
people
coach.
know him. You are a big fan. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, and this is where some of the opportunities that lie in me getting here at a time in which I could share. But Pat Kelsey, did you guys get a chance to see his press conference speech, if you will?
I did not get to see it yesterday.
Okay, I'll share it with you, Casey. You can run it. For those that didn't see it, quite hilarious, to be honest. Pat Kelsey, clearly a guy. I have not paid a ton of attention to Pat Kelsey, but if you're a Louisville fan, I don't know how you wouldn't be excited to have him just based off the energy he brings. This is a man that's been at universities prior where he literally was in a golf cart riding around on campus trying to convince people to go to basketball games. Mm-hmm. That's the type of guy that you have coming in. You got a grinder. You have a guy that has a little bit of grit to him. You know, that's what I would rather have versus some guy coming from the NBA or some guy with a high pedigree that's coming in thinking he's better than maybe the rest. No, this guy is phenomenal. For those that didn't see the speech, here it is right here. It's obviously a little bit of a unique story. I'm assuming this is it. I'll let Casey let it rip, and then how long is it, Casey?
It's 2 minutes and 24
That's
seconds.
probably it.
All
Let
right.
it rip. We'll find out if it's right.
All right.
I have this recurring dream, okay? In a couple of the speeches I've given my life, I've talked about this, but it happened again last night, and I got a great night's sleep. He offered me the job. Obviously, the Board of Trustees had to approve it, but I felt really good. Last couple nights, I didn't sleep really well. I wanted that call. I wanted to be here bad. But when I fell asleep, that dream came back. And good news, I was at the pearly gates. That's a good deal. I walk in, St. Peter meets me. He goes, welcome. I go, awesome, man. This is awesome. The ultimate. I'm here. He goes, let me show you around. We walk down the street. Start showing me a few neighborhoods, and there's a house out in the distance, and it has kind of a red and then a navy blue tint and kind of a Jayhawk down there on the door. And he goes, man, that's where Bill Self lives. Walk down a little bit further, and there's a cul-de-sac, kind of 2 houses on the end of that deal, and there's a maize and blue one, and there's a dark navy one. And he says, yep, that's Scott Drew and Dusty May. They live there. Like, it's ironic, but that's cool. That's cool. So we walk down further and further and further, and we come to this big deal. I'm talking impressive. Big crib, manicured, Bentley. It's blue. It's got a UK on it. He goes, that's where Coach Cal lives. Good for him. It's cool. We go farther down, and I'm talking, out in the distance, the moonlight's hitting it perfect at dusk. The biggest deal you've ever seen. And it is a stinking wow. And there's red all over that deal. And there's a big cardinal on it. And I'm like, St. Peter, that's me? He goes, no. I go, Danny Crum? No. Rick Pitino? He said, son, that's where God lives.
I mean, maybe, again, is that going to win you basketball games? Probably not. But if your job is to come in as the new head coach and get people excited again about your program and try to get boosters back in line and try to get essentially the vibes at an all-time high at a place where they've been at an all-time low for quite some time, there's not a whole lot better ways to do it than that. And Pat Kelsey, like it or not, I think he's a great basketball coach. But he's going to bring energy, and he's going to try to get you back to the promised land, or at least the once was the promised land of Louisville basketball. And I think, ultimately, college basketball is in a better place when Louisville's good. College basketball is in a better place when the Blue Bloods are at the top of the sport. Certainly, you like the Cinderella runs from time to time in March Madness, yes, but let's face it. The most viewed Final Four game of all time was who? Now, I get it. It was Coach K's last year, but it was the blue blood between North Carolina and Duke. And ultimately, that's what's best for the sport. Louisville, let's face it, is a rival in these parts of the country. You're either a University of Kentucky fan, you don't like Louisville. If you're a University of Cincinnati fan, you can kind of go back to the old Big East days where you don't really love Louisville. Certainly, without question, Louisville can find themselves hopefully here soon in a place of relevancy. And that's all I ask as a college basketball fan, is just be somewhat relevant again. Their fans have been through quite literally maybe the worst stretch of college basketball that they would have ever imagined in the history of Louisville Cardinals. Will it get turned around by Pat Kelsey just because he made that press conference speech? No. But I would argue that's about as good of a start as you can get off to if you're the head man in town. And if you've not got a chance to see Pat Kelsey a lot, you can go on YouTube, type in you can go to Charleston, which is his old institution, and go to the videos of him. He's a wild dude, man. I don't know have you seen much of Pat Kelsey?
I have.
Guy's a wild man.
I have, and I think I might be going to that sports stag at Helder, and he is the guest, ironically, in 19 days. So that'll be pretty fun. I love Pat Kelsey. I think there were a lot of Louisville fans that were upset. They wanted some kind of big name.
Yep.
I don't know if that's always the case. I think, sure, if you get the Cowls or the Coach K's or the Roy Williams of the world, if you get Boeheim, if you get Scott Drew, any of these big names, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm excited. But I think there is something about a guy like him who's put Charleston basketball on the map, and you get, like what Trey said, you get a grinder. You get somebody who's going to go into work every day and try to build that program back up from the ground. And I would be thrilled. I'd be absolutely thrilled if I had somebody with that personality walking into my school, into my university. If UC had a guy like that who talked in press conferences like that, was that quick, was that with it, I'd be pumped. So that's how I take it.
I think Wes is a guy, though. Let's not act like Wes isn't a guy that brings some juice from time to time to the press conference. He might not have an eloquent kind of. Certainly, I don't want to jump all over his speech, but certainly it's made up. But that's part of it. It was a good story. I like the message behind it. Wes Miller, by the way, in net rankings has significantly gotten better each and every single year. Sean Miller's at Xavier. I don't think they're looking for anybody new over there. So you would like to think, outside of Louisville, in this realm that is college basketball, outside of Mike Woodson, I don't know where you Indiana fans stand on him, and we all know Calipari's his situation in Kentucky. I think that the coaches within this area are pretty damn good. And we'll find out if that bears out over the next 4 or 5 years, but it would be nice to get to ourselves in a position where hopefully in a couple of years when we watch March Madness like we will this weekend, there are some of those teams that are locally in it because it makes it more relevant, it makes it more fun. And I know that UC fans don't want Xavier to be there, and Xavier fans don't want UC to be there, and Kentucky fans don't want Louisville, and vice versa. I get all that, but just as someone that lives in this community, I think it would be just fun and enjoyable to get the vibes back. Dayton certainly has found themselves in a position where they've been competitive, but again, with Holmes probably leaving, I don't know where that program goes. You already have many people in the Dayton community, at least in my opinion, that already don't really like Grant, even though he's done an unbelievable job there. I don't get that totally. But how come, I got a question for everybody.
Sure.
How come coaches they don't get the credit for recruiting guys in? Like, I see people complaining like, oh, well, it was all Deron Holmes. That's why Dayton was good. Well, Deron Holmes was a top recruit. He chose to go to Dayton. They got him there. Shouldn't the coach get credit for that? I don't know. I mean, and just Kentucky. I get that everybody's like, well, they had two lottery picks. It's like, well, to be fair, though, Cal did get him there. The part of the reason why they're good and they're a disappointment is because of him. But again, I'm not trying to defend Cal. I'm just playing devil's advocate. How many teams make the tournament out of Dayton, Cincinnati, Xavier next season?
I feel like the over-under should be 2.5. It's hard to see Xavier missing 2 years in a row. It's hard to see UC unless they have a big roster turnover missing the tournament last year. I mean, I'd probably say 3.
I'm going to say 1.
Wow.
Xavier gets in.
Wow.
Why wouldn't you think that Cincinnati wouldn't make it?
Because I mean, at some point you are who you are.
They were one win from the NIT Final Four.
Yeah, they were, weren't they? Yeah. Listen. I believe in West. I'm a West guy, but I'm certainly starting to think it'll never happen again. And that's where you are in Cincinnati. Sometimes you get teams that are really good, and sometimes you get them that were really bad. And right now, I cheer for a couple bad ones, and that sucks. But that's how it is. That's how it goes. By the way, you saw March Madness this weekend. So tonight, we'll do a little prediction. NC State, they're the darling as of right now. They're the Cinderella, as it were.
Yeah, the big man. They got the big man.
Yeah. NC State. By the way, I don't want to credit NC State's run and get all the credit for it.
Yeah, you should.
But I was the one who sparked that.
You did?
I was the one who sparked that in Arizona when Nick said, I love Virginia so much. I love them. They're the best team ever, and I've got money on it. SQ says it. I looked at the halftime SQ box sheet, and it says Virginia should be winning this game by 50. And he kept bragging, and I bet on NC State. They hit that buzzer beater. We go to overtime. I put my house on them to win that game, and by God, they did. And that is, I really do. I think I sparked it. I am the Wolfpack.
So how many units are you putting on NC State money line tonight?
I am putting. I mean, if my unit is $15, then I'm putting 4 units on it.
Oh, okay. Good luck.
Thank you. Who will you be taking?
I have Marquette 6.5,
Yeah.
and I have their team over.
I bet you do, you little sicko.
So,
What about you? NC State.
I have not looked at the game to bet on it. I'm not.
Well,
no idea.
let's just pick him out right then. We don't have to talk about betting. Who do you think was winning the game?
I will take Marquette.
Casey?
I think I'll be taking Marquette as well.
Chalk. You guys like the chalk, huh? Gonzaga versus Purdue. Purdue is a 5.5-point favorite.
This is a sneaky game.
I think that's a great
This
game.
is a sneaky game because Gonzaga all year long, everybody wanted to talk about how they weren't very good, right? Or like they weren't as good as they have been in the past. It would be again weirdly justice or ironic. I don't know what term you'd like to use, but there would be something about this Gonzaga team being the team that won it all. Like, of all the teams,
Yeah.
if they got hot at the right time, somehow, some way, the stars aligned, that would just be quite honestly funny. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think Purdue is a simple team. It all comes down to their guards and whether or not they can hit shots, because if those guards hit shots, they beat everybody. They literally beat everybody. You throw the ball into Edey, he does it, and again, I don't mean to crush Edey. He's a great player. But he does is just really – when you're that tall, it's hard to look cool, right?
Yep.
But he looks kind of unique and goofy down there, and then all of a sudden he kicks it out. They swing it around. They make 2 extra passes, and they have a wide-open 3. I don't think Gonzaga is going to match up very well with Edey per se. But, again –
They've struggled against Edey.
If their guards can't make shots and they go 3 for 24 from 3, then they're going to get beat. So –
I think Mark Few is a great coach, and having a full week to prepare, though, that's what I think. I think Gonzaga has a chance. I think Purdue will win, but I think it'll be close. I have Gonzaga taking the spread tonight, but
I have Gonzaga winning.
Mark
and
Few's
taking
had
the
a
spread.
lot more success in the tournament than Matt Painter.
Yep.
And he's had 5 days to prepare for this game. Gonzaga doesn't have a lot of depth. That's their big problem. I mean, I think 1 through 5, 1 through 6, they're probably about as good as any team in the tournament. But what's probably going to bite them either tonight or if they win is they're just going to have one game where they get in foul trouble and they're toast.
Yep.
Gonzaga has made 9 straight Sweet 16s.
It's incredible.
Like, how did that is for people that want to make fun of the fact that they play in a league, that they just dominate their league. They've been in 9 straight Sweet 16s. Like, that in and of itself proves that they're not just playing in a bad league, and that's why they're good. Clearly, you obviously went to the. I know we've made fun of this. I'm not trying to make fun of this.
It's gonna be wild if they win the national championship.
I smile.
Some are saying you sparked it.
Some are saying that you.
Some are.
So
when you paid $750 for that ticket.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, story goes like this relatively quickly. Elliot and Nick, they take a peek at the Game Time app. Tickets are $5 the day before. They're like, cool,
The morning
whatever.
of.
The morning of $5 for whatever reason. Why they wouldn't have just bought them there, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not going to ask the question as to why they wouldn't have just bought him because I don't know.
I will not make that mistake again. I will not make that mistake again.
I don't know if you were looking for value there.
Well,
I
was looking to see who I wanted to go, wanted to get tickets together, make sure we were all.
So he's gonna. It sounds like he's blaming us.
If it was $5, I told Nick, I might not go for the whole game, but I'm definitely going to show up at some point. If it's $5, I'm just going to come in.
So it's $5.
It was a mistake.
Guess what happens? Gets closer to the game. Somehow, some way, maybe Purdue's bus, or not Purdue, excuse me, Gonzaga's bus of all of their fans just showed up out from where they came from, and they all just got on the game time.
It was not that because there was empty seats all over that arena.
So I don't know what happened. Who knows what happened? But nonetheless, if that's the case, then you can't just buy them off the site.
I think they were student tickets. That was the problem. I think they were expecting students to show up. Gonzaga had a few. St. Mary's had like 9 students show up. I mean, they were the number 1 seed in the tournament. And they're not that far. They're in California.
But you paid what? How much to get in after there was $5 tickets?
I think it was about $120.
Yeah, so you paid $120 to get in to watch the Zags. And the reason for this long story was that you were around Gonzaga fans and you felt like they were down on their team.
They were so down on their team. It was insane. They were like, yeah, this is just not our year, man. We don't have the depth. Mark's done they were very, very complimentary of Mark. Like, this is Mark Few's greatest coaching job ever. The fact he's going to get these guys into the tournament. Here they are.
Here they are. 5-point underdogs against Purdue. Might just knock them off and be a game away from the Final Four. March is a crazy time of year. Crazy time of year.
Casey, who'd you pick in that one? Gonzaga, Purdue.
I just now took the spread for Gonzaga. I actually think Gonzaga can upset Purdue as well.
I agree. Chad Waits with a $4.99 super chat. The biggest question going into tomorrow is why we have a player on the Reds roster who sits to pee. Elliot, can you answer this? Stuart Fairchild. And it's unfortunate that he does, but he 100% does. And we have to sit and we have to go into tomorrow knowing that he does it, and nobody likes that he does it, but we have to deal with it.
Putting in a home run bet now.
What's the what is the
reason people don't like Stu?
No, not that. I'm trying to think like what's the repercussion for you continuing to slander my man?
Until he
like
shows.
What happens? Well, let's just happen he goes out and he plays really, really well. You're just going to turn into a fan.
Sure, he can.
How would you feel if I just started saying, you know what? I've always been on Jonathan India's side. I love Jonathan India. He's a great player.
You could do it. I'd have some arguments against you, but you could do it. I similarly to Ian Jabot, who I slandered all of last season. I now am Ian Jabot's biggest fan. Whenever he enters the game, I am ready, I am standing up, and I am cheering loud for the great godson of Queen Elizabeth III. I am all the way there for Ian Jabot now. Stuart Fairchild can do the same thing to me. I'm going to call him Stuart Little. I already got it planned. I've got Stuart Little in the works.
Okay.
And I'll just be a Stuart Little. I'll be the kid with the glasses in that movie, and that's what we'll do. He can be my Stuart Little. But until he shows me that, I can't say it yet. So we'll see. I don't think Bubba Thompson's very good. I don't think Stuart Fairchild is very good.
Some are saying yesterday it was really nice weather outside. Some are saying that you decided that you were going to try to get down there at opening day and just hang out and just jolly gland hand around the bars and have a jolly good old time on work time. Thoughts?
On work time?
Well, you stay back and watch the stream with the boys, but you were going to go down to the game, and then the plan was to go into the game. Some are saying, this is not me, of course. This is speculation on the streets. Some are saying, Some are saying that you didn't want to hang out with your coworkers, so you just decided that you were going to go down there and act like you were getting tickets, and you never planned to go in.
Well, I
thoughts on that?
No, I don't think that was the case because I went down there and I tried to buy tickets. But if you want to slander,
how hard you try?
If you want to slander me like that,
that's to break into the stadium.
I try. I tried my best to get into the ballpark.
I didn't mean you try to buy tickets.
I have pictures. I have pictures of me. I have pictures of me outside of the ballpark waiting to get in, and I stayed out there until like the third inning until I gave up. So if you want to slander me that way, then you can go ahead and do so. I will say this. You guys, I believe, exited that stream at what time? 7 o'clock yesterday, around there?
Yes.
Around the 7:30?
Yes.
It takes me an hour to get home. So, again, you add that on, and that's 8:30, and it's just like, what are we even doing, right? So I supported you guys at my house. I made it a priority when I got home to watch you guys, and that was it. That was my plan.
How do you consume Chatterbox Reds at home?
I watch it on my phone.
Okay.
Why?
Okay. Just curious, phone, smart TV.
My dad watches on the TV. My dad watches on the smart TV. And I think that's the only way we do it. TV and iPhone.
Some are saying that's slander. What I just did. I don't think it's slander.
Yeah, I think it's a little slander. I mean,
I
think
thought
it's
that
a
was
little
a fun.
slander.
I thought that was a good ask because that's what people were saying.
I think it's a little slanderous.
No, I don't think it's slander at all. I did find it relatively funny though, that you're suggesting that it was going to be tough. It was going to be a really tough work environment to where you were just going to be. It was going to be so tough to watch the Reds opening day game and then have to schlep it back to your
I'm
house.
just saying it's
going to be so late.
It's a long drive, and I wanted to get home at a reasonable hour.
Yeah, the working conditions are just so tough.
Well, I'm not saying that the working conditions were bad. I'm just saying that I would have rather gone to the game and been 20 minutes away from home and seen it in a fun environment. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. I went to the Holy Grail, and I lost. You want me to say I lost? I lost. You lose, sir. Good day. But that's okay. We can get on Elliot.
What was the ticket price you were looking for?
Huh?
What was the ticket price you were looking for
yesterday?
yesterday?
I was hoping it would drop under 100. I was hoping to get like 95, 90.
Gotcha. That was the value. That was the value you were looking for.
And it just never happened. I almost got there once.
How close did you get?
Really close, but I got outbid. I as soon as I clicked it, it said unavailable. I got down to 90 and it said unavailable, and it was the last one. And it was really heartbreaking for me.
What point was this? What point?
This was the bottom of the first inning with like 2 outs.
Don't you think some of going to opening day though is all the pregame festivities? So if you miss out on that, then I don't want to say you missed out on all of it.
Sure, but
you
I didn't want to have. Sure, but I didn't want to have an early day. I didn't want to take an early day off from work.
Elliot, a company man, didn't want to take early off. Just was at the banks from the first inning on, watching the game.
I listen. I tried to do it. I should have done it better. If had I known, I didn't know what the whole plan was, so I was just trying to do it off the cuff. And I got there and it didn't work. You want me to say I lost? I lost. Next topic. Next game. We have to finish these games.
Yeah, sure. What other games do we have?
Duke versus Houston. Number 4, Duke. 1 Houston.
What's that line?
4.5 for Houston.
Wow. Duke has looked really good the last few games too. And Houston, maybe not as much. This is one of those things where I just have become a Houston stan, though, because I've watched Houston play so much. Some of that's because I watched the American when UC was in it for quite some time. So I don't want to say I followed Houston, but I knew of Houston. I seen them play 2 or 3 times a year. And then you'd follow them in the tournament, and then inevitably they would disappoint you a little bit because they just didn't get to, I guess, the Final Four championship that you thought that they would. And now I'm all the way in. Like my hands in the middle. If I didn't have the bias towards Houston, I would take Duke. But I have to take Houston because I'm all the way in.
I think I'm out on the Big 12. I think I'm out on Big 12.
Which some would say maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago when they suggested they were a little overrated, would you have said that person would have been right or wrong?
Doesn't seem like I would have disagreed, but I might have. Certainly could have.
Right.
I'm going to take Duke in this game, plus 4.5. I think Duke's playing arguably the best basketball outside of UConn. And for that reason alone, I will be taking the Blue Devils.
I've got first half under.
Ooh.
Team struggle against Houston to score early in the game. I think it'll be a really, really ugly game early. I don't really like a side. Plus 4 seems really spot on for this game. So just taking a first half under on that one.
First half unders have been
4
terrible
is also
tournament.
a tough spot if you're going to take Duke because you can find yourself in a position in college basketball especially, man. They foul at the end of these games to no end to where you can find yourself to where you've been on the right side of something all game long.
Or lose in overtime. Didn't Houston's last game they covered in overtime?
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's just like you could find yourself on a bad beat there with Houston. It could be a close game, but then at the end, foul. Houston makes their free throws, and that's the end of it for Duke. I'm just looking for some good games tonight. I don't know. We got one more?
We do. We have, I'd argue, the game of the night.
Game of the night.
It is Tennessee versus Creighton, and that will be tipping off around 10:30.
Based off of your Creighton fanboying earlier, you're going to take Creighton?
I'm going to take Creighton. I am absolutely going to take Creighton. Again, Tennessee's very good, but Rick Barnes in the tournament has not been very good. And for that reason alone, plus 3.5 seems free, not to mention money line. I do have a future on Creighton and Tennessee, mind you.
Nice.
So either way, I'm happy after this game. Saying that, I have Creighton going to the national championship and beating UConn.
That's the crazy thing about this tournament, because Creighton was dead in the water against Oregon just a couple days ago. I don't know. This is a tough one because Tennessee has been a little bit of a letdown at times too in the postseason. But having said that, I think Tennessee's the better team. So I'm going to take Tennessee.
I got Tennessee -2, so I got a little value early on that one.
You got the value. And Tennessee isn't bad, though. Tennessee is not bad, and they could win this game easily. So
They are in the Sweet 16.
the only difference is they're in the Sweet 16. The only difference is I did not like the way they looked against Texas. I hated the way they looked against Texas.
Kalkbrenner is just such a tough matchup.
Yeah.
Tennessee's really good defensively, though, so I'll be interested to see kind of how they're able to handle him.
It depends on how they officiate these games. I know no one wants to talk about that, but if they allow guys to be very, very physical, then guess what? Houston is a tough out. If you don't call fouls on Houston, then Houston might be the best team in the country.
Yeah.
Because but the thing about Houston is they foul on every possession.
Yep.
So you can't, at some point as a referee, you can't call 25 fouls in the game. And Houston knows this, and that's why they do it. So kudos to them. Tennessee's, I don't want to say they're the same as Houston. Tennessee's somewhat of the same nature, though.
Could you imagine that game?
Man, Houston, Tennessee, they might as well literally bring rocks. We'll just play dodgeball with rocks.
It was like that Grand Canyon, Alabama game, which I did not expect to be that way. The most physical college basketball game that I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Just every possession they were killing.
Breaking Reds news, Sam Mole has been put on a rehab assignment at AAA Louisville. So hopefully we have Sam Mole back.
Louisville's opening night is tonight, 7:15.
That's
Carson
right.
Spires getting
Big.
the ball on opening night for the Bats.
Maybe that's why the day is off for the Reds.
Yeah,
They don't want to step on the toes of Louisville.
And I got the famous Bryce Spalding will be on Chatterbox Reds podcast.
Heck,
Audio only tomorrow morning. We're
Is he
going
going
to
to be discussing his tweet?
I'm sure I'll ask about him. We'll talk about the Bats game, their opening night. So yeah.
Love that.
I love that.
I also love that Steve chimes into the chat, asks the same question that every other person in the world asks, which is NCAA decides to start a Sweet 16 game at 4 p.m. in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, they start one at 10 p.m. in Boston. I don't get it either.
That's what I said.
I don't get it. No one gets it. No one understands why even last week they decided to play a what was it? It wasn't a Sweet 16 game. It was a round of 32 game. The Dayton versus Arizona game was at like 10:30 local time, 10:30 a.m. local time, and then they played in, I believe it was in Philadelphia maybe, or it was somewhere like that.
Yep.
Last week they played in Philadelphia at like 10. It was a 10:20 start time. It's all because of TV. It's all because of TV, and I don't understand why it has to be that way. You can't convince me that playing the games on the East Coast earlier in the day and then just having the West Coast games like you normally would play later and just having the same time slots with different teams would actually even matter. Most people that watch March Madness are watching, they're just watching because they like college basketball. I don't think it's appointment television based off of who's playing until the Final Four. No? I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe if Duke, like I said before, if there's two blue bloods that are playing each other, maybe that's appointment television to where you have people that are actually going out of their way to watch those games. But the vast majority of people are just watching March Madness because it's just something that they enjoy watching and it's on TV. They're not watching the 12 o'clock game because Dayton versus Arizona isn't on.
Correct.
And I'm just making up teams at this point, but let's just say it's Clemson versus NC State or whatever it would be. I don't know who actually played, but point is, it doesn't make sense. We'll have to figure that out. Maybe we can find somebody to come on the show that can try to give us a reason.
I'll see if I can get NIT Stu on. He seems knowledgeable. You ever heard of NIT Stu?
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get NIT Stu on next week. Anyway, programming notes.
Yes, programming notes. The show goes from 10
a.m. usually.
Yeah, to 12
p.m. usually. Sometimes.
Yeah, ish, usually. Here's the thing. Next week is going to be a unique week for Chatterbox Sports. So we have a big opportunity and one that we're taking very seriously, and we're trying to prepare as best we can. And to be honest with you, we're pushing the envelope, I think is the term to possibly use here. On Tuesday, we are going to be doing the Joe Nuxall Classic in partnership with Prasco Park. For those that don't know, Prasco Park is it was the alternative site to the Cincinnati Reds during the COVID season, if that gives you any inclination on how nice this place is. But they want to do a good job broadcasting the game. They want a pregame show. They want a postgame show. We're going to do some in-house entertainment there. And it's obviously, when you're at a company like ours, it requires some effort and some energy, and you're stretching yourself what we would call, quote-unquote, thin. The other thing, for those that think I'm a bad guy, I am possibly a bad guy at times, but I was told that our workers here, they want a nice, good, cozy work environment, and they wanted Monday off because it was Easter Monday. So that happened, and that is perfectly fine because we love our employees here at Chatterbox Sports. So
and we love the Lord, too.
The Lord was Sunday.
Yeah, but Monday is the holiday as well.
Okay, so it's a holiday, but Prasco Park is working. Interesting.
For the Lord.
Okay, but regardless, so Monday, the employees, is that what should we call it?
I don't know what you're calling. I don't know what you're doing.
But regardless, I was told that we were off on Monday. That's what we were told. So we are off on Monday, which is perfectly fine. I want to make it very clear. This isn't me saying that it was a bad decision. But Monday, we're taking off. Tuesday, we have Prasco Park. Wednesday, we'll be back better than ever. Which is tough, I know, because we do this show every single day, Monday through Friday, from 10 to 12, which means on Monday and Tuesday, we're lying to you.
And just to be clear, the Dayton show, that will all start Thursday.
Kenner and Kev will be on Thursday, 3 p. right here on Chatterbox Sports. You can give them a shout, check them out. But in all seriousness, we probably are going to go off air here a little bit sooner than later. And this is a really cool perspective weekend, at least for me. I do love this time of the year for multiple reasons, and it's a great reminder. Not to get religious on the show, but I do think it's a great reminder for many of where we're at, what's going on, and hopefully you can enjoy this weekend and take something from it and maybe learn and grow, because that's ultimately what you
Will your kids have an Easter egg hunt?
Yes.
Nick?
I already had it. We
Already
had
had
a
it.
friend that did a really nice big Easter egg hunt last weekend.
Nice.
No
Will
extra-
you be having an Easter egg hunt?
Here's the thing. My grandparents still do an Easter egg hunt. We are well past the age of doing Easter egg hunts, but that does not stop them. So what they do, they put an egg in their backyard, and it's got $100 in it, and the first grandchild to find it gets $100.
Nice. And I need to recruit some guys for Saturday. I need help around the house doing something. So I need to figure that out. So I'm gonna have to put some feelers out there.
For what, Easter eggs?
Not Easter eggs. I got a little basketball goal that I need to set up.
I see. I think Jeremiah's up for the task.
You said Jeremiah was in here the other day? He was not in here the other day, right?
He was in here with you. That's the only day he was here.
Okay. Yeah, but the other day wasn't like the other day. It was like last week type
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, I get
Why?
it. Okay. Well, because he had mentioned that he wasn't going to be able to be back for like a week because he was going with his family somewhere, which was great. No problem at all. But he's going to come back. He's going to edit. His first job here at Chatterbox Sports is going to be editing the vlog, which we'll see how it ultimately ends up turning out. I think it's going to be awesome that it's just going to be like wherever he makes it. I'm genuinely gonna try not to even like edit it. I just want to see how this thing turns out. He's got full creative reins. Let's see how this vlog turns out from our trip. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe it'll be great, and we'll marvel at the talent that is Jeremiah. But we won't be back on these airwaves on our Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers until Wednesday at 10 a. Kenner and Kev will be Thursday at 3 p. And we will be on ESPN Radio in Dayton, 1410 Wing AM, starting on Thursday, because the Reds play Wednesday, and they're big time, and that means that when the Reds play, they're on the radio. Believe it or not, they will not move that for our show. Probably a good business decision on their end. But in all seriousness, the amount of people that have continued to stick with us, there's been a lot of moving parts around this company for quite some time. I get it. Tom is in a situation where many of you maybe started watching this show because of him, and then now you've continued to stick around with the gang. I do think as we progress, more and more things will stay the same, but they will change slightly just because we want to continue to try to be entertaining and fun. Hopefully throughout the summer we can find somebody that does this show better than me. If we can't, then ultimately at some point we will find that, because I don't think I do it at a high level. And I know already, based off of the last week, that at some point preparation for the show would have to be a little bit better by somebody. And if it has to be me, I guess it will be. But nonetheless, I just want to say one last time before we go for the weekend, enjoy your weekend, enjoy Easter. He is risen. That's a big thing. Pretty big deal. Just saying. And outside of that, I love you. I appreciate you. We'll see you back here better than ever on Wednesday. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.